Imagine if the federal government dammed the Golden Gate and drained the entire San Francisco Bay just to turn it into farmland. Now, multiply that disaster by 1,000. Welcome to 1,955. The Mediterranean Sea is dying. In its place lies a toxic salt wasteland, larger than Alaska and Texas combined. It is the result of the largest infrastructure project in human history. A project promised to save Europe, but which turned it into a desert. 1929, the Wall Street crash. German architect Hermann Sergel proposes Atlantropa, a massive dam across the Strait of Gibraltar, to drain the Mediterranean, unite Europe and Africa, and generate limitless energy. In our history, his plan was ignored. But what would happen if the Great Depression of 1929 had made this project Europe's only hope for survival? Atlantropa. It is no longer a dream. It is the largest economic stimulus in human history. Mussolini sells it to his people as the return of imperial grandeur. Italy will no longer be a prisoner of the sea, but the queen of a new continent. In Germany, history pivots. Hitler realizes power isn't just in tanks, but in jewels. The Nazi Party changes its tune. They don't promise war. They promise the dam that will give Germany the master switch to the entire continent.
This wasn't a military alliance. It was an economic siege.
At the top were the proponents, the creditors. Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, supplied the steel, the coal, the engineers. It was the banker of the project, financing Europe's future on its terms. Italy, under Mussolini, offered what Germany lacked: millions of workers and a political network across the Mediterranean. Then came the debtors, the bankrupt democracies. France had defaulted. Pierre Laval, a technocratic puppet, signed the Treaty of Marseille, heavy industry in exchange for debt relief. The United Kingdom, under Lord Halifax, struck a quieter deal. The Royal Navy guaranteed safe passage for materials and allowed the dam to anchor on the Rock of Gibraltar. In return, Britain claimed 30% of the future energy grid and promised not to interfere. Spain was the construction zone. Franco won the Civil War with German support. In return, he turned the Spanish coast into a logistics colony for the Reich. The sovereignty of the strait was no longer Spanish. It belonged to the dam. One nation stayed silent: America. Still reeling from the Depression, Senator Robert Taft and the isolationist bloc sealed the borders. Fortress America watched from across the Atlantic, blind to what was coming. Even Turkey, straddling two worlds, accepted German investment to rebuild its ports. Officially neutral, economically compliant. A salt curtain divided the continent. The split wasn't just geographical, it was contractual. Decades earlier, Italy had made a fatal mistake. They traded their share of the electricity for the rights to the new land. They dreamed of a new agricultural Roman Empire on the seabed, but they were wrong. The soil was toxic, salty, and dead, while Germany, France, and the UK formed the wealthy Northern Bloc. hoarding all the power. The South was left with nothing but useless dust. Italy, Spain, and Turkey were bankrupt. They didn't have energy, and they no longer had the sea. Across the Atlantic, President Eisenhower saw an opportunity. He didn't care about saving the starving South. He wanted to destroy the European superpower. The CIA approached Prince Borghese in Rome with a proposition. They promised to help him force the North to the negotiating table. May 1st, 1960, the Battle of the Strait. Borghese ordered a full-scale assault on the surface. They were met by the combined might of the French Foreign Legion and German security forces. A brutal firefight erupted on a thin strip of concrete, suspended over the abyss. Amidst the chaos of the battle, the United States made its move, but they didn't send frogmen. They sent a fleet. An American naval task force approached the dam. They radioed Berlin, claiming they were there to assist the Northern Bloc in securing the facility against the rebels. Desperate and overwhelmed by the Italian assault, the German and French commanders made a fatal error. They lowered their defenses. They welcomed the Americans as saviors. The North didn't realize they had just opened the door to their own executioners. At 3 a.m., the charges detonated. When the freezing ocean hit the sun-baked, superheated salt crust of the Mediterranean floor, it triggered a thermal explosion. Billions of tons of steam rose instantly, creating a scalding white fog that covered the entire continent. The mining colonies, New Venice, Sicilia Nova, the farm settlements, were not flooded. They were vaporized by the shock wave. 12 million people died in the first 6 hours. They never even saw the water coming. It took 2 years for the sea level to stabilize. When the steam finally cleared, the map of the world had changed again. The dam was gone, and with it, the German economic miracle. Without the hydroelectric power of Gibraltar, the factories of the North went dark. The European economy collapsed overnight. The South got their sea back, but at a terrible cost.